Like the fact that those didn't have a father to teach them to value women before they had kids, just it's what happens when grow up without a daddy. Like it's a man's biological nature to look at women and find them attractive, so they end up being objectified to that end. However, every woman up here that's been in a successful relationship was objectified by the man that she had that relationship with prior to getting in a relationship with him. So it seems as if it's only an issue when men objectify women and it doesn't lead to a desired outcome for said women or the that these women are raising.
I wouldn't have done that. It's like, well, you really don't know. So it's like, it's so many different things that go into why people do things, and sometimes, you can name it to it's like, oh, this person was being a coward, or this person was being, but a lot of it is fear, and a lot of it is because we're the minority, and because the pressure that comes from so many other people that don't look like us, it's a lot of pressure that makes you feel that way, and then you got the people that's in your community that oppress you, right? Sure. And so as men, we do it to women, right? As men, that's the tier. Right. We do it to women even more, right? We fall underneath that same thing. And so to your point, we got to strip that away, figure out what the issue is with that, have those conversations, understand that it's layers and layers of what it is, but also don't be like, you weak as hell.
Maybe should have worded it like that now.
No, I know. You wouldn't have been able to do it. You ain't been able to hold it down, but it's just like, man, it's so many, reasons why a man would leave a household, and then sometimes it's us not holding them accountable and saying, hey, look, man, you need to get your shit together. Yeah. All right, you need to make sure you over there. Because now I'm sitting here playing spades with you and smoking. You ain't seeing your kid 3 blocks down the street in weeks. Right. So no accountability. So to your point, as you was talking to your driver, let's take accountability, but then also kind of give each other a little bit of grace and understanding, especially our OGs who went through a lot, especially our guys who are coming from Vietnam, who came home to nothing and lost everything and went out there and lost their mind, saw things we can never imagine, right?
Did everything for this place. And
did everything for this country just for them to take it away from you. And so now I say, well, fuck everybody.
That's my entry point to this conversation. I think that because I went to college and I got a master's degree in human relations, I really sat with and grappled with power and domination when it comes to like gender discrimination and when it comes to discrimination against women. So for me in this conversation, thinking about like fatherhood, I can't help but to think about the way in which I was introduced into this conversation about women's progression and how there were critiques of Black women that talked about how us as men don't start thinking about this shit until we start having kids. Mm-hmm. So we start to think about how we only think about women when it's tethered to a man. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, respect her, bro. That's so-and-so little sister. Hey, respect her, bro. That's so-and-so. So it's really thinking about how us as men, in terms of accountability, we really don't even have a good transition from objectification to fatherhood because you've been a fucker for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And now you don't want to be a fucker no more. Now you want to be a father. Because we don't have that accountability to think about the how we are taught to objectify women. And I know in our conversations it'd be like, hey, you can get respect from the homies based off how you get down on a bitch.
Yes. Yeah.
To be real. Mm-hmm. You can get capital, popularity, preference based off of how you're able to dominate and objectify other women. So then when I come into the conversation and I want to talk about progression of women, we start to have different, I'm gonna say pathology, different ways that stigma taps into it. And I think one of those is us being very critical about how we relate to women that's not related to us. Like, how do you respect women that's not your sister, that's not your mama, that's not your, you know what I'm saying, you feel me? Oh, even when you find them attractive. Like, how do you respect for those women? And I think that the conversation starts before we start thinking about fatherhood. It starts, to me, thinking about it in middle school, you know what I'm saying? But also in this conversation though, it's like, hey, so before you became a father, before you became a father, when did you think about the general welfare of women?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm adopted, so I think some of that has always been in my mind, just to what will make someone give their child up. You know, since I've always known since I was 7. Feel me? So, what environment was she in? Did she feel protected? Did she feel wanted, cared for, seen? All the things. So early on, I think it's kind of gone to a place of just humanity of it all, just like a person. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Right. I want to feel how I feel. That's me. I want the same for everybody.
Yes.
I want you to live your life. I don't want nobody to take their life. But for the most part, if it makes you happy, go do your thing. That's me.
Right.
That's who I am. I understand that a lot of people are not like that. A lot of people also don't have my experience.
Yeah.
That has probably made me this way.
For sure.
My upbringing, you dig? Single parent.
Like the fact that those niggas didn't have a father to teach them to value women before they had kids, just it's what happens when niggas grow up without a daddy. Like it's a man's biological nature to look at women and find them attractive, so they end up being objectified to that end. However, every woman up here that's been in a successful relationship was objectified by the man that she had that relationship with prior to getting in a relationship with him. So it seems as if it's only an issue when men objectify women and it doesn't lead to a desired outcome for said women or the niggas that these women are raising.
I'd like to ask, ideally, how should we look at women before we, decide to have kids? If anybody can get their opinion, and then I'd like to go from there.
I think from a man's perspective, because I would think we touched on this before, I think you look at them as people. Before you arrive to the point to where you are walking in your sexual energy as a young man, they're little girls. So you're 7, she's 7. Sexes shouldn't even be on your mind, in my opinion. They're people.
And then what about once we become like young men?
I would say that it's the same train of thought because you've had 2 different experiences. From an adolescent perspective, you felt away. At least, again, I'm speaking from my perspective, but I'm assuming before sex became a biological like tug of sorts or instinct, you were able to engage with young ladies from an even playing field to some degree. So you've had time to develop that muscle. At some point, I think it becomes a choice to objectify women overwhelmingly, in my opinion.
Yeah. As far as like men and women, when you're young and you start to get to that age where you probably didn't learn a lot from your elders when it comes to, relations between men and women. But I think that you probably start to see men or women through the lens of, for one, the ones are physically attractive, right? And the other ones you probably don't notice. And I just think it's human to see those people for what you want from them, if that makes sense. Not just men and women, for like whether you want, like no matter what it is. Yeah, tell me what you think about that.
I mean, you definitely made an honest point, Mont. We do look at people, and I guess what you all would say, compartmentalize them, or you weigh your options, however they go. But the reality of the situation is, I think a lot of the objectifying just comes from that culture of casual sex and just being able to just have these random slew of meaningless encounters and think that that's cool. Like it's some rite of passage to manhood that you have to do that. Maybe if that wasn't instituted and enacted so deeply, and a lot of men and some women too, let's not, men and women, took more time, right, with that vetting and that discernment process, and didn't spread themselves so thinly and widely across so many different people, you wouldn't see women like that, and you would value yourself more and who you got your energy to. But that's neither here nor there, because again, that's a whole system, and you would just have to make an individual choice to be disciplined about what you're looking at, who you're looking at, and what you want. That's just natural, I guess. So
I just wanted to speak to the fact, I know a lot of people don't care for this guy, but what Consciously was saying, because I experience it a lot having conversations with guys in these spaces, that men don't value women unless they're attached to a man. That's why when we get up here and talk, like as soon as a man hears a woman speak in this space, are you married? Are you in a relationship? Like it's always that, because it's like nothing that she says matters unless she's attached to a man. And like our own individual experiences, be it bad or good, is not heard unless that's true. I mean, y'all have heard it done to me 1,000 times. So like, I think there's much to be said there, because a woman can't just be a woman without like being, I don't know, like being called single and lonely or just like brushed off. It just isn't a good feeling. But I want men to see women more as human than they do just baby makers, wives, and sexual objects. But I thought that was a good point that he brought that up.
I don't think that we're really giving enough credit to biology and the absolute sense of urgency that men feel on a regular basis. And I know you could make it seem like like some sort of an excuse for bad behavior. However, to give you context, if you could think of your peak point, just 10x that shit, and that's a man's baseline. So there's a great deal of not only discipline, but just trying to fit yourself into society standards. So we could see you as people, but once that system override happens, then it's a very big deal for men. So that's why you might see men constantly trying to procreate. It's not that men want to view women as or objectify women, but they honestly, like, that's just part of it, right? We could appreciate everything else about you, but that is like part of the priority, and we try to downplay it, but it's not necessarily um, a behavior as much as it is biology itself.
Yeah. When we say see women as people, if y'all could elaborate on that, like what does that mean?
So instead of look, go on both. You got it. You got it.
So we kind of explored this with the whole men and women friendships conversation. Like, we can't just be seen as people who have feelings and desires and all of this. Like, there were literal men in the comments like, what I'm supposed to do with a woman when she my friend? What we supposed to do? Go shopping? Like, what the like what why? So like women like football and basketball. You like to go to the game. Women like to go to the game too. You like to go to the gym. Listen, I gotta go to the gym in the morning. You want to go to the gym with me? You know what I'm saying? Like, the same things that you do with your guy friends. It's like you all don't see us like you see any other like guy. We're just a woman. That's what I mean. Like, we're just people.